Hey, welcome to Riding Shotgun with Tupper, a day late and a win short. Good to have you with us. We postponed, we usually do the Riding Shotgun thing on Tuesdays, and we postponed it for a day for a couple reasons. I was at the hospital yesterday and last night. Our daughter had her baby and our first grandchild, a little girl. Oh my goodness, it was spectacular, miracle. And I know a number of you who heard about this yesterday when I posted it on Twitter that we were delaying for a day because of it have taken the time to say congrats, and I very much appreciate that. And a lot of you have said, man, you're just going to have so much fun being a grandpa. And one day into it, I'm having so much fun being a grandpa. You're right about that, man. It is just unbelievable. And then also I just thought, well, it'd make more sense than to just preview the game with Wake Forest yesterday, but then to talk about it today. and so we will do that. I didn't get home from the hospital until like 9 o'clock, which was an hour into the game. But I'd set it up to record, so I go back to watch it from the beginning. Well, if you remember, at the beginning, the game wasn't on because the Florida State-Rutgers game went so long, and they started out showing the Illinois game on another station. Well, I didn't have the other station taped, so by the time they joined the Illinois game, Illinois had, I don't know, they were up by maybe 8 or something, and it was about halfway through the first half, and I noticed right away something's wrong. Finke's not playing. Tijon Lucas is not playing. What's going on? And they had both gotten in foul trouble, and they were out the rest of the first half. And then Wake Forest made a run. Illinois had a really poor finish to the first half. Missed a ton of shots. Finally, Kipper hit one out of the corner, a 3 right before the buzzer, and Illinois was down by 1, I believe. But you could just see a lot of the things that they had been able to do in the first 6 games that they either did not do or were not able to do in this game. I saw no easy baskets, or very few, and they've gotten easy baskets often in transition because they forced a turnover. They didn't force Wake Forest into enough turnovers. They in fact turned it over. In fact, their bigs turned it over. I thought they did a poor job attacking inside against the zone, but when they did get the ball in there, Kipper put it on the floor and turned it over, or LaRon Black the same, or even Finke. I think those 3 guys combined for 12 turnovers. That's too many from your bigs. And Illinois fouled too much. Wake Forest got to the free throw line a ton. Illinois did not get to the free throw line anywhere near enough. I think they shot 14 free throws. That's about half as many as a Brad Underwood team would like to shoot. And so, you got nothing from Finke offensively, and he's probably been your MVP through the first 6 games. And it was difficult inside, and Wake Forest, I knew Wake Forest was better than what they had been in their first 6 games. They're learning how to play through their guards. Last year they played through their big, and yet this game you saw them play more through their guards and supplement with their 2 7-footers, and exposed Illinois to some things we already knew about them. We know Illinois is small, and you really realize it when you see a team come in with 2 7-footers, and you're going to guard them with LaRon Black at 6'7", or Kipper Nichols at 6'6", and Finke a little bit, but not out there all that much. And so just a lot of things didn't go that well. All that said, Aaron Jordan had a really nice game again, the leading 3-point shooter in the country. I think he was 4 of 6 from 3, 20 points. That's a career high. And Illinois got to within 1 in the second half, but was not doing enough good things to get them by Wake Forest in Illinois' first road game. And so they lose, what was it, 80-73, I believe. And so a lot to learn and a lot to take to the practice floor for a couple days as they get ready for Northwestern Friday night in Rosemont in that weird December 1st Big Ten opener. We're not used to seeing that, and we'll see another one Sunday when they come home and play Maryland, and then they go back to 6 non-conference games, and then start up Big Ten play again after the first of the year. So it was interesting. It was different. It was disappointing that they didn't play better, and and missed an opportunity. If you play them 10 times, you'll win your share, then maybe more than half, but certainly not last night, and didn't play better than Wake Forest. So football, man, this is a bleak time right now in football, and I know it felt that way when the season ended Saturday against Northwestern. Fans are really disappointed and just tired of watching losing football. I mean, listen, I get it. It's hard. And some of the games this season, a couple in particular, and certainly the second half of the Northwestern game, they've been hard to watch. You walk out of there, you're angry, you're disappointed, I don't know how they sell tickets next year. There's some really loyal fans, and yet even those are upset. They're upset with any number of things, and then you think, well, it really feels bad, and then you get to this week, and 4 players have transferred or are announcing they're going to transfer, and 3 of them really hurt you on the defensive side of the ball as you try to build a defense for next season that has a little bit of depth with it, and particularly Trey Watson, who, when he's healthy, is probably your best overall defensive player, a really good tackler, really a guy who gets around the ball, makes plays. He's leaving because I think he'd like a season to win. I think he'd love to know what it is to go to a bowl game, and he looks at next year and realizes the commitment made to the freshman, even though he's going to play, but wants to end up in a winning situation, or at least have that opportunity. Patrick Nelson, a safety, he was playing part of that 3-safety rotation with Bennett Williams and Stanley Green. When those guys were healthy and in that rotation, that worked. That was good. That was one of the highlights of the defense. But he's flustered too. He's been through a lot. Trey Watson has been through 3 head coaches, 4 defensive coordinators, I believe at least 4 position coaches. That stuff wears on a person. The collateral damage from extended losing is hard to measure and hard to anticipate, and you don't even think about it when the season's going on, because you're thinking about, are they winning, are they losing, are they playing well, are they not playing well, what could be better, and you're not thinking about, well, after the season, what's the wear and tear on a kid's psyche or mind. And Tito Odenigbo, defensive lineman, he was playing part of that rotation, a guy who projected next year as definitely being a helper. He was a helper this year. The one guy that's leaving that didn't project likely to be a lot of help next year, and that's why he's leaving, is Gabe Meganson, who was a highly regarded recruit from Jacksonville, and he just wants to play, and I get it. They promoted freshmen over him, and I'm sure he doesn't agree with that, and wants an opportunity to play somewhere as opposed to watch. And if you're not playing on this team, I bet it's very frustrating, because you're saying, hey, this is a team that's not winning. This is a team that's and I can't get on the field with this group. I'm sure that's really frustrating. So he's leaving too, and I don't know if there wouldn't be more. I expect Jeff George Jr. to transfer, simply because clearly they're committed to dual threat quarterbacks, and Jeff is not that. That's what they're recruiting to. They're not recruiting the next Jeff George Jr. They're not recruiting a pocket guy, and he's gotten beat up because the protection was poor, and his decision making's, in my opinion, a little bit slower. I don't know where Jeff would go, but I was talking to somebody whose opinion I respect, and they were suggesting, maybe someplace like Indiana State. He could play right away. He'd have 2 years of eligibility. He's an Indiana kid. He could throw the ball around. Maybe that works for him. I don't know if Jeff thinks of himself as having an NFL opportunity. I don't, but he may not agree with that, and that's certainly his prerogative. And all these kids play football because they like to play. It's too hard of a game to play if you don't like it. So if you're going to play, you want to play. And Jeff wants to play, knows he won't. They're going in a different direction at that position. Chase Crouch, I don't know what Chase does. If he wants to play quarterback, then he's got to leave. They moved him to tight end, and he's probably a third or fourth string tight end, and that doesn't seem like it would bring him a great deal of satisfaction. He didn't get on the field very much at all. So, and then we haven't gotten to coaches, and I don't know where that all is going to go, but if you follow college football nationally, you know that there are a ton of changes going on all over the place with head coaching changes. A head coaching change means a new staff. A new staff means people scatter. It may be that a current Illinois assistant gets an opportunity somewhere. It may be that a current Illinois assistant just wants to go somewhere else. It may be that a current Illinois assistant hasn't satisfied Lovie and Josh Whitman. Josh may have some input on some of that too, and so that hasn't come up yet. But anything's possible, and it's just a really difficult time. They're going to have some extra scholarships available. How would you fill those? Would you go look junior college or fifth-year transfers to try to get some people who can have a more immediate impact next season? I don't know. I think that's an unenviable position to be in. And then, I don't think Lovie gets frustrated to the point where, he bails on this. It would cost him a lot of money, and it would be a bad look for him to just throw up his hands. And Josh, particularly when your boss is behind you, as Josh is, he's willing. Josh is one guy who's willing to be patient with this rebuild plan. But the biggest worry to me still is you've got to solve the quarterback situation. And, Cam Thomas is certainly a candidate there. I was kind of alarmed at the number of people who, after the Northwestern game, said, I'm giving up on Cam Thomas. He's not the answer. Well, I think that's hard to do after a kid's had 2 starts and played in 4 games in his entire college career. After playing in a poor high school program, he's clearly a good enough athlete. In my mind, he's clearly got a strong enough arm. Yes, he needs to throw the ball more accurately. He needs to read defenses better. He needs to understand secondary play a little bit better. And he needs, and he's talked about this, and Garrick McGee's talked about this, he needs to trust himself. Garrick goes over these plays with him on Sunday or Monday and says, well, on this play that didn't work out, what did you see? And he tells him, I saw this guy break out and was open. And Garrick says, well, then why didn't you throw it to him? Well, I felt like I needed to, go through my progression a little more and look over here. And Garrick would come back to him. I'm recreating a hypothetical here, but Garrick would come back to him and say, if you see a guy and you can make that throw and he's open and it's not a high-risk turnover play, you've got to trust what you see and you got to make that throw. And right now, he doesn't trust what he sees. I asked him about this Saturday after the Northwestern game. It's like the first thing he said. I've got to trust what I see. I've got to spend my spring practice time and summertime trusting myself. And then you have 2 freshmen coming in. You have MJ Rivers from Texas, who's a big, strong kid, very interesting prospect. And then you have Coran Taylor from Peoria, assuming these kids all come. Nobody's signed yet. They are having an early signing period this year. December 20th it begins. I know Rivers has definitely said he's certainly coming. I hear kind of differing things on Taylor. There's always been kind of some academic questions there, but let's just assume they both come. And so now you've got 3 guys in the mix, essentially, who could be the guy next year, and that is assuming they don't still add a 5th-year transfer quarterback, which is possible. Last year we went through the whole Dwayne Lawson thing. Dwayne Lawson never could see fit to go to class in junior college to complete his academic requirements in order to be admitted, so he played himself out of an opportunity. I just think about that and I just shake my head. How could a kid do that? But that's his problem. So do you see that happening? I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions there, and I think that they've got to dig deeper now to try to find answers. And that's where they are right now. They're out recruiting, and so we'll see where all that goes. But man, it is a tough time. Schedule more favorable next year. A lot of eyes on him here this spring to see how players develop. But in the more immediate future, keeping an eye on any roster turnover coming up within the next few days, the next week, whatever, as people, decide, do I want to continue to be a part of this, or do I want to move away from this, either because I don't want to hang around, I'm not going to be a part of a winning program, and so I'm going to try to get somewhere where I can be, or they've already bypassed me and I want to play for some program. I think Gabe Megginson, if he was playing, he's not leaving. That's my opinion. I think he stays, but he's not playing, so I get it. So really a rough time in football right now, no doubt about that. And I'd be interested to see when they say they're going to start spring ball, because last year, remember, they started on Valentine's Day, February 14th, which is really early. And Lovie said not as early as last year. Okay, so what are we talking about? We're talking about March 1st, March 15th. When are we talking about? And basketball, a loss to Wake Forest, Northwestern Friday night in Rosemont, Maryland Sunday evening at the State Farm Center. Football, just a tough time right now, and antennas up on any kind of more player movement or defections, and Grandpa here is going to go out to the hospital and see his granddaughter and enjoy every minute of that. None of this other stuff seems quite as important, to be honest with you. And that was just an amazing thing. I've heard that for a long time, that when you become a grandparent, it sort of changes your life. And and last night, in just a couple seconds, I'm like, oh my God, I get it. that was pretty darn remarkable. I didn't bring my dog along with me today. She got a little muddy, and I just didn't feel like hosing her off when her paws get really muddy. And then she went out into the woods, and I don't know if she was a deer back there or what, but she came out and she had burrs all over her. God, she was a mess. And so I passed on that and decided not to bring her along, but maybe next Tuesday. We'll get back on a Tuesday schedule with her. And I'm going by one of my horses here. That's Quana. You'll see her maybe in the mirror here as we move up. Yeah, there she is. Hi, baby. So anyhow, that's all. Hope you had a great holiday. Thanks for putting up with the day delay. I apologize again about that, but it made sense on a couple of levels, so we did the best we can. So thanks very much. See you next Tuesday. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.